Hey, this is Kevin Shinnick, writer of Star Wars Force Collector, some Spider-Man comics, some Batman and Flash comics, just a lover of pop culture. And you are listening to Genuine Chit-Chat.
Hello my friends and welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week is a special one where myself and Megan drove up to Manchester for the weekend. And we decided to record a podcast on the way there, mainly talking about spooky season and horror films and those sorts of things. I must warn that the audio quality, although I've cleaned it up and stuff and you can hear us both fine, is not as clear as you can hear right now because obviously it's in a car and also it's not with this fancy-ish microphone in my nice air quotes studio. But it's still really good conversation, and we've got another one recorded for our way back from Manchester, so that's likely going to be the following week. It's just I had 3 guests lined up for this week and all of them have had to reschedule for a variety of different reasons. It's completely fine. These things do happen. It's just a little bit frustrating because it's like I plan to do all my podcast recording in October and have it essentially sorted for pretty much all of November and then have a smidge left for December, and instead it's not gone that way. So in November I'm going to have some incredible conversations, really interesting individuals, and I've already mentioned like 1 or 2 of them in previous episodes of Genuine Chit Chat as sort of the outro parts, but there are a couple of people involved in Star Wars, so I'm very excited about that. They're not the ones who have pushed things back at all, but it's just one of those things where sometimes you can be the best scheduler in the world, but if certain guests either can't do it or certain guests have to reschedule, you just have to kind of roll the punches. So that's what I've had to do. But the podcast is still great. This is the kind of thing I'd release on my Patreon, but my patrons are still going to get bonus content. At the moment, we're doing spooky season, so me and Megan are watching horror films and reviewing those. So, yeah, that's what patrons can expect. But I'm going to leave you here at the moment. I'll go back at the end to give you a bit more information on what's to come and those sorts of things. But friends, I really appreciate you listening. I hope you do enjoy this sort of somewhat bonus episode, but it's still a great conversation. And just thank you so much for listening. So, without further ado, I give you myself and Megan. Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. And I'm your host, Mike Burton. Sunday, to edit the car noise that you already started recording.
Oh, well.
Have you checked the time is going?
As everyone, Michael's moaning at his Megan. He's moaning at his Megan.
I'm not moaning.
Forcing me to do a podcast moaning at his Megan. He's moaning at his Megan.
She offered it earlier.
Moaning at his Megan, telling me how to hold the podcast.
Doodad. It's a dual input microphone.
That doesn't go with my song.
It's a handheld Tascam recorder.
You're a Tascam recorder.
I mean, I am in some ways. I have a pretty good memory, so I'm a pretty good recorder.
Cool story, bro.
It is a cool story, bro. That is.
One used to be a little chef.
Yeah, well, I know this because you tell me every time we drive past it.
And now you know how I feel when you tell me a fact every single time
I know
we drive
because I already knew about this.
Oh, here we go again. Moaning at you, Megan. Moaning at you, Megan.
I've driven around the UK more than you have.
I'd be inclined to disagree with that statement.
Me and my parents used to always drive around the UK.
Yeah, so did me and my mum.
But when we've spoken about travelling around the UK, there's lots of places you haven't been.
Yeah, but I've been to lots of places in the UK.
What, you mean from Southampton, Eastleigh, up to Canterbury and anywhere in between?
No, I've been to Wales, lots of places in Wales. I've been to loads of different places in the UK.
Wales is the only one you mentioned there.
No, I know.
You've been to Wales, Cornwall and Bournemouth?
I've been other places as well.
I've been other places.
Just, what are you trying to prove here?
That I know Little Chefs better than you do.
Fuck off.
Well, we are on our way to Manchester.
Whoop whoop.
Because I got Megan tickets to see RuPaul's Drag Race Work the World 2023.
You need to be in the left lane.
Thank you. Because, well, I mean, I'm not going to wait until...
You're cutting it fine here, mate. Fucking hell.
I know. But
were you paying attention to the sat-nav? Did you not realise that we had to come off?
You are correct.
There we go.
I was paying too much attention.
Mike.
I was paying too much attention in not crashing into the car in front of me.
So earlier, Mike called me a backseat driver, and I'm like, okay, well...
That was because you were telling me how to get out of the car park.
Well, I now have to tell you how to get out of this junction.
Get out of the junction?
Yeah. So, look who's a good backseat driver now.
Do we get onto the junction?
No, I don't. I mean, pay attention to where you're supposed to be going, mate.
Get off.
Pay attention to your sat-nav, buddy.
Right. Well... Anyway, we're going to Manchester because, I got Megan tickets to see Work the World, RuPaul's Drag Race. We saw it at the last tour, and it was way more fun than I thought it was going to be honest. I didn't think it was going to be that good. But, I mean, Asia O'Hara was the host, and she was incredible. So
she was really good.
I'm hoping this host is going to be as good, because if it's not, it's going to be a bit of a buzzkill. But
it will still be fun, even if they're not as, like... They'll be different. If it's not the same person, they'll be different. Like,
yeah, of course. But also, we're probably going to have a few drinks throughout the day tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more fun.
Yeah, we'll do some day drinking. We don't ever get to do day drinking.
No, and then we do day drinking, and then we're like, oh yeah,
maybe we could do like a little pub crawl and go to a few of the like classic pubs. Like my head of department is from Manchester, and she suggested a pub, and I can't remember the place of it now, so I have to text her.
Yeah. And I want to try out some different whiskies as well, cross off some of my whiskey list, so I can do some of those. And I have my classic cider, love a bit of cider. Even though when I go up north, they don't really have much cider. It's like Copperberg and all the syrupy cider, and I'm like, oh, proper cider. It's like, well, you're in the wrong county.
Well, yeah, we're right next to the county that does all the cider. We're like near it, Somerset.
Yeah, I mean, Manchester's not close to Somerset.
That's what I'm saying.
It sounded like you said we are near it.
No, as in we are originally from like near it. Hampshire is closer to Somerset.
Well, I was going to say Hampshire, Bristol, all that sort of stuff near Somerset, and that's where
Bristol's just like across the border.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, Bristol is like farmers, and Somerset is farmers, but with lots of apples. But yeah, we are trying to navigate through HGVs, which is always good fun. But we're on the way to Manchester, and I got Megan the RuPaul's Drag Race ticket again because it was in Manchester. And why don't you tell Megan? Why don't you tell everyone why Manchester is one of your favourite cities? It's not the culture. It's not even a restaurant. It's not the people.
Well,
it's not the football.
We did a podcast when we went to Manchester last, didn't we?
Yes, any new Patreon supporters, go back and listen to that. I don't think I put that one on the main Genuine Chit-Chat feed.
No. But, so the last time we went to Manchester, we were going up to the Lake District, and it was kind of just like a halfway, like, stop-off area.
Yeah.
I say halfway, but it was just like a pit stop where we went for a couple of days before we went up to the Lake District. When we got to Manchester, our accommodation was further out. Like, it was a good, like, what was it? It was a good walk. It was like 45-minute walk into the centre.
Yeah.
Because Manchester as a city is quite expensive for accommodation.
That's quite large.
It's massive. But so this time we're actually staying more central. But when we went there last time, we got into Manchester, like city centre, and then we were going to decide on going somewhere for a coffee. And rather than going to like a chain like Costa or Starbucks, I like looked to see what coffee shops there were like near us, and I just typed in coffee shops, and then it came up with one called Michael's, which was a 3-minute walk away.
Why would you choose a place called Michael's?
So obviously we went to Michael's, and it was the greatest decision that we could have ever made. Oh my god, what a bellend. Why the fuck would you not indicate? What dick? Yeah, you speed up in shame and get out of here. Look, he just tried to swerve into that lane. Oh my god, what the fuck is that car doing?
I think this person's drunk. Jesus. I do not like being behind this person.
No.
They're swerving, they're not signalling. I don't trust this driver.
So we're in the middle lane. They swerved from the slow lane into the middle lane without indicating, and then the fast lane was going past, and now they're swerving like between the slow and the fast lane, even though they're still in the middle lane. And they just keep swerving in between HGVs.
I do not like this.
And they're not indicating at all.
Yeah,
Who the fuck is driving?
I don't know. They're on their phone. That's why.
Yeah, he's on his fucking phone. What a dick.
Who the hell goes on their phone, like, holding their phone? The driver should never be on the phone while moving in a vehicle. However, when it's... Oh, the service isn't even. When you're driving and it's in a sat-nav holder, there are examples that you can go on your phone because you might have to check where you're going in a sat-nav or whatever, or other certain circumstances. But you should be in the far left lane going as slow as safely as possible. If you are the only person in the car and you absolutely have to, you should stop the car.
Absolute bellend. He was proper swerving and it was not indicating at all.
Yeah, that was literally like dangerous. Like, I thought the person might be drunk.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, I do not condone people being on phones while driving, especially not the motorway. That's ridiculous. But yeah, so we're going to Manchester.
So we discovered Michael's, and we were like, okay, let's go there. Then we got there, and then we were looking at the coffees. Mike suggested that I have the pistachio latte, and I didn't know how I feel about that. I didn't know if I'd like it that much, because pistachio, the nuts, I do like them, but they're not like my favourite nut. Yeah. So I was like, nah, don't worry, I won't get that. And Mike was like, okay, well, I'm going to get that then, because I think you'll really like it. I got what was it? I got a white chocolate.
I convinced you.
Oh, you convinced me.
You said, fine,
I was like, fine, I'll have the pistachio latte. Mike got a white chocolate latte.
White chocolate mocha.
White chocolate
Which is
mocha.
okay.
And then I tasted the pistachio latte, and sweet Jesus, it was one of the greatest things I've ever consumed. And I have not stopped banging on about it since. We were in Manchester. We went there every single day, so we had it 3 days. And on the last day, we went out of our way and paid extra money to park in the car park in Manchester because I specifically wanted to get Michael's. It added like an extra 45 minutes, an hour to our journey because I specifically wanted to go and get Michael's.
It was worth it.
Yeah, because it's the best. So Mike kindly chose Manchester, and he also found us accommodation, which is 20 minutes walking from Michael's Coffee.
First thing in the morning.
So I'm very excited because I follow them on Instagram, and they do regular competitions to win vouchers and stuff, but it's only for locals because it's only that one shop. It's a Manchester own company.
Yeah.
It's a very independent company, so I'm just but I need it, and I've been banging on about it at work because I'm so excited to go and have pistachio latte. And as I left today, one of the people, so it's been 2 years, and we've only been to Manchester the one time. And as I was leaving today, one of my colleagues was like, I hope you enjoy your pistachio latte, because I've just been talking about it so much.
Yeah.
They also do pistachio croissants, so I'm excited to try one of them as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to get there in time to have a Michael's this evening.
This evening is too late for a Michael's because we both I had work today, so.
Yeah, so that's the reason we're going to Manchester. And because of, you'll all be hearing this on the main feed of Genuine Chit-Chat, so I would have probably recorded an intro to explain it anyway. But yeah, so on the way, it's fun, it's getting dark, which is, this time of driving is one of my least favourites because it's dark and there's a lot of cars, whereas I like driving at 10 p.m. onwards. Driving in the middle of the night, 1 a.m. is great because no one is on the road, and it's so easy because it's just be in the left-hand lane, you can go quite fast, doesn't really matter, and there's no cars. And if there are any cars, you get a bright light to indicate when they're coming.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's less visibility, but a lot of bright lights, which make it harder to see, actually.
Well, they're hopefully not to jinx it, but traffic's been pretty decent on this journey so far, considering it's a Friday and we left at 5 p.m.
Yeah, you're correct. It's good we decided to come down here. Well, I decided because I organised the trip. For us to come down here tonight as opposed to tomorrow morning. Because it'd been too much of a rush otherwise.
I wouldn't have wanted to do that.
No. I want a day in Manchester.
Yeah, we get a full day in Manchester.
Get to go to Tampopo, get to go to Michael's for a coffee.
Are we going to go to Tampopo for lunch or dinner?
Dinner, I imagine. It'll be an earlier dinner, so I don't know, late lunch.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Tampopo is an Asian place.
Asian
fusion place. So it's a combination of loads of different Asian cuisines. And we went there last time and it was really good, so I think we're going to go back to Tampopo.
Oh yes. Love a bit of Asian food. Especially when it's a little bit more different as well. We're going to try some more different things, I think. But yeah, so we're going to Manchester. That wasn't the reason I wanted to start the podcast. It was just to explain why the audio isn't going to sound as crisp as it does when we're in the, let's call it studio to sound fancy, but with the proper mic and no very loud background noise of the car. But I want to ask Megan really about horror films, because any Patreon supporters will know that we're in spooky season.
Spooky season.
Which, there's a thing about Megan, which we'll get into in a moment, but
I'm perfect, obviously.
No one's perfect, but you're pretty close. You're perfect for me.
I'm 99.9% perfect.
You're perfect for me. But, yeah, whenever Patreon supporters will know, we do spooky season, which is we watch loads of horror films, and we actually release more Patreon episodes in spooky season than any other time of the year. Because normally you get one a week, sometimes 2 a week if I release a part 1 and part 2 of Genuine Chit-Chat, or if I release a Patreon episode on the main feed, then I give patrons a bonus episode. So I always make sure the patrons get at least 1 episode a week. In spooky season, normally we rack up a load of them, because we record 4 a week, and then I end up releasing them in more quick succession. So often Patreon supporters get bonus ones. So they will have already, as of recording this, heard our Nightmare on Elm Street number 1 recording, and then we've also recorded number 2 as well, so we'll be releasing that soon as well. And we're going to go through all the Nightmare on Elm Street films this year. So we
didn't watch the 3rd one last night, did we? We watched RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, which is fine, because there's RuPaul's Drag Race on at the moment, and Bake Off, and Loki, so we'll watch horror films in between that. But we're going to watch all the Nightmare on Elm Street films. So there's the 6 main Nightmare films. Then there's also Freddy vs. Jason, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and also the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. So there's going to be 9 Nightmare films. In the past, we watched all the Scream movies last year, so at that point there were 5 of them. The year before that, we watched the Halloween films, didn't we?
Yeah.
We didn't watch all of them, because that's insanity. We didn't watch the Rob Zombie remakes, and we didn't watch the 4, 5, and 6. But we did watch 1, 2, 3, H2O, and then also the remake thing.
We're up to date with that, aren't we?
Yeah, we
watched the most recent one.
We watched the recording. We did the recording of Halloween Ends as like a predecessor to Spooky Season about a month ago.
Yeah.
So we like watching. I mean, Megan especially really likes watching horror franchises. So we just get on board and watch loads of them.
Well, it's more that they've been like parodied in so much stuff.
Yeah.
That I never really watched horror films growing up. So, like, now I'm getting to this point where I do enjoy them. I didn't not like them, I just never watched them. But I, like, want to be able to understand all of the references to the films. So I'm an all or nothing kind of person. Like, if I'm going to watch something, I want to watch everything.
Yeah.
Unless I absolutely despise it, then I won't. But
within reason. Because, like, for example, as we said, with the Halloween films, we didn't watch Halloween Resurrection.
No, because apparently they're shit.
And we didn't watch, the Curse of Mike Myers trilogy, because apparently they're just all awful. Whereas, it's like, we're going to eventually, I think next year we might watch Friday the 13th, but I don't know how many of them we're going to watch, because there's 8 main Friday the 13th movies, then there's Freddy vs. Jason, then there's Jason X, then there's a remake of Friday the 13th. And unanimously, they're all rated terribly, apart from the first one, which is rated okay. But the Friday the 13th, the original, is rated only slightly better than the worst rated Nightmare on Elm Street films, bar 2 of them.
Yeah.
So, the quality, Halloween is what we kind of started with, because that's some of the best Halloween franchises. And then Nightmare on Elm Street is a bit up and down, but then Friday the 13th is rough. And then I think after that we're probably going to watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies.
I thought you didn't want to watch them.
I don't want to watch them yet. I'd rather watch I've been wanting to watch the Nightmare films for ages, because I had the first 6 on DVD for ages. And I like the original Nightmare and the remake, controversially, because everyone hates the remake. But the problem is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the reason I'm stepping away from that a little bit is because with the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday films, they are just sequels to each other. Some of them retcon other stuff, but it doesn't really matter. It's not really relevant.
Yeah.
Whereas the Halloween films, there's 4 or 5 continuities, including the Rob Zombie remakes, the Curse of the Mike Myers trilogy, and then also H2O and Resurrection and the Halloween 2018 reboot. So they all kind of contradict each other. Whereas the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a mess. They've rebooted it 3 times.
Oh, I jinxed it. We're going to hit some traffic.
We are going to. But, like, with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's 3 rebooted franchises, I think. Plus, there's like 2 or 3 standalone films as well, which are just their own thing.
Yeah.
So none of them really continue on from themselves. But then some of them will continue on from the original, while other ones don't. So it's like, and also Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not. It's really going to be a gore fest.
This is the thing. I'm not a massive fan of gore, and I don't like gore for the sake of it.
Oh, we
so
watched the
I
Saw
think
films.
I'm gonna. Yeah, but I struggle with the Saw films. Like, I fucking love the first Saw film because it's intelligent. Like,
Yeah.
it's really smart. Like, when he has to cut his foot off, it's pretty fucking horrible. He cuts the whole thing off, doesn't he? Or does he dislocate it?
No, he cuts it off.
Yeah, he cuts
breaks it with the top of the
Yeah. That's awful, and I don't like watching it, but it's necessary for the plot.
Yeah.
Whereas I just find that the more that you get into the Saw movies, it is just gore for the sake of being gore, and I don't really like that.
Yeah, I mean, I love...
I'm not going to stop breaking.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first 4 Saw movies are genuinely really good. I think the first 3 are the best. I think the first one is a great indie movie, and then the second, third, and fourth ones work as a real good sequel because of Jigsaw. Granted, there is a couple of traps that are too much. The reverse Jigsaw, the reverse crucifix one is absolutely horrendous.
That is horrendous.
Can't deal with that. And the one where the woman's hair is in that vice thing and it rips her hair off and it pulls from her scalp.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the one with the pig guts either.
I'm fine with that one, but in the same movie, I think it's the fourth one we're talking about, but I don't like the one where there's...
the pig guts one is in the third film.
Yeah, I mean, the third and fourth I get mixed because they're the same timeline, it's different perspectives. But one thing I don't like about the third or fourth one is, I think it's the fourth one, when that police officer's trying to follow Jigsaw and do what he does kind of thing. There's that guy he finds who's like...
Also, spoilers.
You're going to say, yeah, A, spoilers, but also B, trigger warning. There's a guy who's a rapist that the police officer finds, and he's strapped to the bed. And he gives him those buttons, and he has to stab his own eyes out. And if he doesn't do it in time, it rips all his limbs off. Like, that's pretty hard to watch. But yeah, the Saw movies I enjoy, but then obviously I didn't show you 5, 6 or 7, because 5 and 6 are genuinely abysmal. 7's okay, but then 8 is Jigsaw, which I think is really good. I really liked Jigsaw.
Did we watch that one?
Yeah, we watched that. It's kind of its own thing. But I won't say anything about it here because it would be a spoiler. But we watched Jigsaw and we did enjoy it. Not as much as the originals.
Is it the one...
It's like a modern-ish day. It's only made like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think I remember it.
Yeah, there's a trap on there where they've got heads on. They've got buckets on their heads and they get pulled.
Oh, yeah.
Like
that is the one that I'm thinking of then.
Yeah, that one I really liked. Really thought that was cool. Then there's Spiral, which is the Book of Saw, which is Chris Rock, which apparently isn't very good. But now the new Saw film that's out, which is Saw 10, is apparently amazing. But it works if you've seen all the other ones.
So many bloody movies.
So, yeah, I know. So I want to watch... I'm not going to make you watch them all, but I want to watch Spiral, because I want to watch that for a while, and then after that I can watch Saw 10. I mean, I'm sure Saw 10 would make perfect sense without it. But regardless, with spooky season, because there's a Halloween pod, like that's what we're kind of loosely talking about, is horror films. When we first started dating, you really weren't into horror films as much. Like, before me, you had seen quite a few horror films. You'd seen It at the cinema with your brother.
Seen The Grudge. The US version.
Yeah, with Sarah Michelle Gellar. I've not even seen The Grudge. But you've seen a few. But when we were first dating, I remember the first time we did spooky season together, the first year we were together, I tried to get you to watch some horror films, and you would not watch any. We ended up watching The Nightmare Before Christmas. Because you wouldn't watch the Blair Witch Project.
Which was shit. So I'm glad that I waited to watch it, because it was crap.
True, but the sequel is great.
The sequel's decent. Yeah, I preferred the sequel to the original.
Way better. Very fun film. Hugely underrated in my view. But what happened? I don't know what happened, but a year after we were dating, just suddenly a switch got turned on, and you never really wanted to watch many horror films. It would have been
a couple of years, I think. I think it was COVID when we started doing proper spooky season.
I suppose during COVID there was.
I think it was 2020 that because I distinctly remember it being in the flat that we were proper getting into spooky season.
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed horror films, but I've watched them throughout the years, whereas with my mate Callum, who's been on the podcast, and my mate Alex, who's also been on the podcast, like, what we used to do is, before we had major careers and we lived near each other and relationships and things, so it was just 3 single guys in their 20s, we all had Odeon Limitless cards. So we would just go, it'd be at least once a week, but often twice a week, sometimes even 3 times a week. We'd just go to the cinema. And we'd often go quite late. So me and Callum would always go to the cinema. And I remember one October, we were seeing a different horror film every couple of days. And we saw The Conjuring 2, Lights Out, Get Out, Don't Breathe. They're not out all the same year, but we saw loads of horror films. And when you see a horror film in the cinema, it's just better. You get so much more immersion out of it. And also, I'd say most horror films, you don't need to see more than once. Like, you watch it once and it's like, well, I know where the scary bits are. And a lot of horror films are quite crap as well. So, seeing a horror film at the cinema, I think, really, really works.
Yeah.
Rather than owning them on home release. But, yeah, you just had to switch. Like, what is it now? Because when spooky normally in the year, you're not usually much of a fan of watching horror films. But there's been the odd one we watch. Watch Evil Dead, watch Halloween Ends, etc. But what is it that makes you really want to watch horror films now?
I don't know. It's just the association with it being around Halloween, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Because you've always loved,
I love October. I love
pumpkin spice.
I love autumn.
Yeah.
I like it when the leaves start to change colour. It's not as hot. You get to wear cosy jumpers. I get to wear a blanket. I think it's just the level of comfort.
Yeah.
So when you watch a horror film, I have the ability to be able to have a blanket around me and feel comforted. I'm very much the kind of person that needs to have a blanket so that I can kind of cover my eyes and watch the film at the same time.
Yeah.
So I probably would think that maybe.
But the thing is with horror films is I think on the stereotypes of horror films that horror films are scary, which should be the case given the genre. But unless you're a teenager or a kid, they're really not scary at all. There's some which are a bit freaky. I think Blair Witch Project, the sequel, genuinely really freaky. I think Sinister and Insidious have their moments. I think Insidious completely ruins itself, but
I haven't seen it.
The Woman in Black, that's phenomenal. That's quite scary. But, like, most
I wouldn't
films...
class that as a horror film, though. I'd class it more as a thriller.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to differentiate. Like, for example, Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe is not a horror film at all.
Don't Breathe, is that the one where there's
the blind guy?
The people in the house?
Yeah. Like, that's a phenomenal...
Yeah, that's a great movie. I really liked that film.
It's one of the best films I've seen of that kind of genre, but it's not scary. It's tense. And you're at the edge of your seat the whole time, but it's not scary. And I think that when you watch a lot of classic horror, especially as we do with, like, the horror series, they're so dated. Like, you watch the first Nightmare on Elm Street film, it is not even remotely scary, apart from one bit. There's one scene that's kind of scary, and that's it. As we did in our review. So if anyone's not already a patron supporter, become a patron supporter. Go check it out. Or review the show on Apple Podcasts or Audible or Spotify. Leave a rating or review. Send me a screenshot, and I'll send you a free episode of our Afterthoughts from Patreon. And if you want, it could be the Nightmare on Elm Street one. And if you ask really nicely, I might even send you two. So,
Right.
Yeah. But like when we spoke about Nightmare on Elm Street, it's not scary at all. The concept is cool, but it's not a scary movie. And it's like there's so few films that are actually freaky and are actually scary. I know there's a couple of modern ones, like Hereditary is meant to be, but I saw that in the cinema and it didn't scare me at all. And I just thought it was quite slow and boring. But like with youth horror films, like we won't do any spoilers, but we watched like The Others with Nicole Kidman. That was a banger. That was a great movie.
Is that the one that we watched with Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good film. I liked that one.
Really good movie. But like horror films for you, what do you have that are favourite horror films? Like, I know you quite enjoy the original Halloween, but like...
This is the thing, is that, like, I don't mind them, but I don't really... Huh?
It's like, oh, I love watching them, I just don't like them very much.
I don't really know. I don't mind watching horror films. Like, I enjoy watching them, but I think it's difficult to decide what my favourite horror film is, because it's not my, like, go-to it's not my go-to genre.
Scream probably is, isn't it?
Scream. To be fair, I really did enjoy the Scream franchise.
All five. We're going to watch the sixth one this year.
We haven't seen the sixth one. No, we are watching the sixth one.
I
want to finish. Yeah, I know, but I want to finish the series.
Well, yeah, finish in air quotes, because it's horror and it goes on forever, but, like, the Scream films are the most consistent horror franchise
I'd
I've
probably
ever seen. All five of them are banging.
Scream. Because we've watched so many fucking horror films, and there's so many films that go into there. Sydney, yeah? Yeah.
Sydney played by Neve Campbell.
Yeah.
Who's not in the new one.
Well, I don't know.
But Courtney Cox she's in the new one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I really like the Scream franchise. That's probably my favourite horror film. I liked Scream.
They're definitely, I'd say they're almost...
I thought they're smart, they're good.
Well, it's just like you watch all five of them, and each film adds something slightly different. It's not supernatural, and it is scary. It's like a dude in a cloak with a knife after you.
This is the thing, and this is the thing that I don't like so much about Halloween, is that I don't understand the concept of Mike Myers, because I don't understand how he's still fucking alive. I don't there's so many things that are unanswered, and that guy's lights were well bright then.
Yeah.
I don't understand lots of things, and I don't get, is he supernatural, is he not? Like, it kind of insinuates that he is, and then at the same time it doesn't. Like, he's meant to be the representation of pure evil, and it's just like, I don't really get it. Whereas, like, Scream is just regular people, and I think that's the scarier element.
Yeah.
And also, again, it's been parodied in so much stuff, and that in the parodies, I've always enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, because you like the scary movie.
I like the scary movie films. I think they're funny. They're stupid, obviously, but I don't hate them.
You like the Scream films, but you like the scary movie, and obviously, Scary Movie is known for parodying Scream specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like the Scream franchise. I think that's my favourite.
Yeah, I mean, I think Scream, like, I'd only seen the first Scream film, but I think it's definitely the most consistent, and it's a really, really good ride. And because the characters stay the same, you keep it somewhat invested. And, like, people die, so it's like, your favourite characters can die.
Yeah.
But with Halloween, it's very up and down, it's very inconsistent. And I thought Halloween 1 is a banger, Halloween 2 is a banger, Halloween 3 is okay, and then Halloween H20, 20 years on.
She has a son that then suddenly disappears.
That one's a banger. And then Halloween 2018.
I disagree that all of them are bangers, my love.
Halloween 2018, the reboot, remakey thing that continues from Halloween 1, that's a banger. When I say banger, I mean, like, for a horror film, like, they're good horror films. But I found that the Halloween franchise, I agree with you, with the whole stuff with Mike Myers, like, Halloween 2, unfortunately, is weakened because you've got Dr. Ramis, or whatever his name is. He's just annoying. And then Mike Myers basically being invincible in Halloween 2 is quite annoying. And then with the Halloween reboot franchise, they were like, we're not going to do that. And then they're like, oh no, we are now. And it's like, you either have to have a Freddy Krueger type character or Jason Voorhees, where there's a supernatural element that you can't explain, or you do it like Scream, where there's no supernatural element. But doing it where it's like, oh, there's no supernatural element, but this guy is literally invincible. It's like, but then there is a supernatural
He literally got shot, like, what?
with a shotgun. And
He got shot so many fucking times and he's still alive, and I'm just like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it makes very little sense. But yeah, like, what do you like about horror films? Like, do you like being at the edge of your seat? Like, I obviously...
No, I fucking hate feeling tense. They're the worst ones for me. I remember watching...
You love Don't Breathe.
Yeah, I liked Don't Breathe because I thought it was smart.
Right.
But I don't... And you do get, like, gain from it. I remember watching a film with you and Justin, and I just felt tense for the entire movie and nothing really fucking happened. And I don't like that. I don't like feeling...
That was on the woods, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't like feeling tense for the entire time and then not getting any gain from it.
Right.
I also don't like jump scares that much, but I don't really know why I like horror films, because I just seem to critique mostly, but I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I don't like being made jump. I don't like feeling tense. I don't like gore, so it's kind of weird, really. But I like... There is adrenaline. I like roller coasters, so...
True.
I guess it is kind of the element of being scared, because it then releases adrenaline, which gets your heart pumping, which then releases like endorphins and shit, doesn't it? So
yeah.
I don't really know.
I mean, I love horror films because a lot of the time in horror films you get some really interesting ideas. There's a lot of original ideas that come from horror, which I like, and also I like that I'm not scared of horror films because they're not really scary. So I'm just like, this is cool. Like,
some of them are. I mean, some horror films are scary.
I mean, some of them are freaky. I mean, I quite like the body horror ones. Like, we watched like The Fly and The Thing. Like, they're like hard to watch.
Have you seen... Because there's The Orphan and The Orphanage, which I have seen both of. The Orphanage is a Spanish movie, isn't it?
I watched that once, about 15 years ago, with Kieran, and I can remember almost nothing about it.
I'm pretty sure I've seen it twice.
It's Del Toro.
Yeah, The Orphan freaked me out, not The Orphanage.
Yeah.
The Orphan freaked me out. It's about that girl, that kid.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't really want to say it, because otherwise I think it gives away the twist in the movie. But
yeah, I know it's like I feel like you don't like possession much, do you? Like films where people get possessed and it's like...
I don't know. I wouldn't want to watch Chucky. I mean, I haven't heard fantastic things, but I don't like the idea of something like that coming to... I'm a bit freaked out by like China dolls and stuff like that.
Okay, interesting.
I used to have China dolls. They're just creepy looking. I used to have some at my nan's house, and they're just fucking weird looking.
Was that the Uncanny
I had one called Megan, and I had a missing arm.
Well, it's funny because there's that film called Megan, which is literally about a doll.
It's AI, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny with Chucky, I think we'll watch at some point in the future, but...
I don't like the idea of, like, actual things that people could own coming to life.
Yeah, because there's that separation at least. But the thing is, you like Scream, whereas Scream is literally just someone decides to kill people.
Yeah, but then I get freaked out. Well, I mean, yeah, things do freak me out, but I don't like being at home at nighttime by myself. Like,
yeah.
At nighttime, if I need to go to the toilet, I get freaked out sometimes. Like, I don't like that stuff. So having the idea of like a doll that literally can fucking come to life and kill you, I don't like.
Yeah.
And also, there's like, I don't know, it just freaks me out a bit.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I remember watching a film called Sorority Row.
Yeah.
I actually watched that at the cinema. That is a horror film, but it's like, from what I recall, it's not that great. I think I looked up the reviews somewhat recently, or like a couple of years ago, when we were looking at spooky season, and it's not reviewed very well. But there's like a scene in it where basically the premise is that I think it's a bunch of high schoolers or a bunch of cheerleaders see something happen, and it's like the whole like, I know what you did last summer kind of like trope.
Yeah.
And then, like, they're getting, like, picked off one by one kind of thing.
Right.
And there's one specific scene where they're in a shower, and it's a really steamy shower, and you can hear, like, the noise of, a blade, like, running on, kind of like in Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street, where you can hear the blade on, like, the metal.
Yeah.
And when I had a shower, like, either the next day or that night, I could see steam, and then that freaked me out. I was like, oh my god, someone's going to come in and murder me. But... I don't really know where I'm going with this.
Well, there's certain horror films I find, like, I like supernatural cool things. There's a film called Lights Out that's quite cool, and it's about this, like, demon thing. There's, like, a person that's kind of stuck in
Have I seen
shadows. No. It's good, but it's not good enough for me to necessarily show you. It's a really good concept, but the plot is a bit weak. Well, not necessarily weak, it just kind of plods along and doesn't really go anywhere, I guess. There's other indie ones I quite like. You mentioned The Ritual, that's cool. There's It Follows, that's quite a cool one. My mate Alex loves horror films. There's loads of cool ones he always recommends.
I've seen one called, I think it was The Boy or Boy.
Yeah.
I've seen that. My cousins and I watched that just on a random fucking Sunday afternoon.
I haven't seen that. But there's a film called Eden Lake that is kind of a horror film, but it's that kind of genre. So just checking the services.
It's a moto one that I looked at, but I don't really think it matters that much. Well, the one in 39 miles?
Yeah.
In 39 miles?
Well, it's just the next one's only got KFC and I don't want a KFC.
Okay.
I can stop at the next one and see. I just fancy a Burger King, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fine. If it says a sign for Burger King, can we stop? Because I'm hungry.
Yeah, well, that's what the 39 miles one is, but I don't know if we're going to stay on this road for 39 miles.
Well, that's the problem. Well, no, we're not. 17 miles.
Okay, well, I'll stop off here. Oh,
no. Does it say Burger King?
There seems to be a sign. Yeah, we'll stop off here.
What's it called?
Warwick Davis. Cool. Well, that's perfect to kind of segue. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about spooky season. Megan does like horror films, even though she doesn't. It's quite a weird one. But yeah, this year we're watching Nightmare on Elm Street. Last year, again, we watched all the Scream movies, so we reviewed all of those. We've watched quite a few indie ones, independent ones. We've seen Get Out and Don't Breathe and Happy Death Day and things like that.
I enjoyed Happy Death Day.
It's cool.
I liked that one. Get Out, which one's that? Is that with the tea party in the cup?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all about, the black guy going to, a very white neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a Jordan Peele film. But
yeah, that was a great film. I enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, well, there's films called...
I like smart horror films.
Yeah.
I don't like silly, stupid stuff. Like, when we watched the original Evil Dead recently, and then Evil Dead 2, especially Evil Dead 2, it's too silly for me. I don't like it. It's just stupid. I don't like slapsticky comedy, and that reminds me of it quite considerably.
Yeah, comedy horror.
We've stopped here before.
We have, yeah. We stopped here quite a lot, actually. Comedy horror you're not as much of a fan of.
Comedy horror?
Horror comedy. Well,
it can be funny. It can be a funny horror film and I can enjoy it. But this is why it surprises me that I like the scary movies, because they're stupid.
I hate the scary movie films.
Oh my god, this guy. You're going to get run over, mate.
Gazelle.
He is like a gazelle.
But yeah, well, friends, that's going to be enough from us, because we've just stopped at the service station.
Look at that fantastic parking over there.
And we're hungry. Wow, that's terrible. 72-plate vehicle, yeah. Well, friends, thank you so much for listening. That's that's kind of like an insight into what we do on the Patreon for spooky season. And you can give £1 a month to Patreon, patreon.com/genuine Chit-Chat, and you get instant access to over 170 episodes of Afterthoughts just straight away. And that includes all of spooky season from last year and the prior years as well. Loads and loads of movies. And yeah, this year we're doing Nightmare and a few others. And also you can request stuff as well if you become a Patreon supporter, if you fancy it, or if you just want to hear just like all our Nightmare stuff or all our Scream and you don't want to commit to something monthly, then you can give a one-off donation at ko-fi.com/genuine chit-chat. Indeed, you can do all those things. But friends, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And but yeah, thanks again, friends, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Bye!
And that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, my friends, make sure you check out my other content if this is your first time listening. Usually the quality is similar to what you can hear right now from me, and usually my guests are of quite good quality as well. And I must also add that all the bonus content on Patreon, it's very rare that myself and Megan actually record in a car. We normally record in this house, so there's no major background noise or anything like that. So all the Patreon episodes actually sound much better than this car recording did one as well. So I just want to clarify that if you've not tuned in before. But some of the future topics I've got lined up, there's a discussion about reptiles, there's going to be a discussion about dogs, there's a couple of authors that are going to be coming on, there's one that's going to be like a really deep conceptual discussion as well, and obviously there's some Star Warsy stuff sprinkled in there as well, as one would expect. So next week is going to be part 2 of this. In essence, it's going to be its own episode because although it is technically the second part, it's not really one full conversation. It was another conversation we had on the drive back, but it's still linking in with spooky season. And I think I may have said it in this recording, but if you're willing to review the show, either rate it on Spotify or leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Audible or anywhere like that, screenshot it, send it to me in social media, at Genuine Chit-Chat, and I'll send you a free episode from the Afterthoughts catalogue. You can either mention what you fancy specifically, or I can send you something from spooky season or whatever. If you do it during October, during spooky season, then I can send you 2 episodes of spooky season. I think at the moment we've got recorded the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1 and 2, so you can have those if you so desire. But you could also support me on Patreon for only £1 a month, and you get immediate access to, I think it's about 180 episodes of Afterthoughts at the moment. So that's spooky season from this year, spooky season from last year, where last year we tackled Scream. Also reviews of live performances that we've seen, movies we've seen at the cinema, movies we've seen that are like classic movies. We've been doing like a Tom Hanks rewatch as well, which is kind of paused at the moment because we need to watch Saving Private Ryan again, and it's a very long film and it's a lot to deal with. So we've been watching other stuff in the meantime, watching series and all kinds of stuff. So, and also if you're a fan of Star Wars, I release Star Wars content over there occasionally as well, reviewing the Star Wars Legends books and also giving like a plot details of that. So I've done the Heir to the Empire book, I've done the Darth Bane trilogy, I've done a few other bits and pieces there, and I've got more to come as well. But yeah, thank you so much for supporting the show just by listening. Obviously you can share on social media, you can leave ratings and reviews as I have mentioned, but if you want to support the show even more, and it really helps myself and Megan out, then you can support on Patreon or at Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/genuinechitchat. And I'm currently saving up for a new camera, so the video versions of these conversations will be much higher quality, so that is the goal. But friends, I'll leave you here. Thank you so much for listening. As always, next week will be a similar episode, and then after that, I'll have some cool different guests to speak with. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll speak to you then.
You have just experienced host, creator, everything elser of Genuine Chit-Chat, and also the host and creator of Star Wars comics and canon, found on the Comics in Motion podcast, Mike Burton.